time has come, old girl. Time to get you ready. But ready for what? Well, good news. It's annual inspection time, MOT. Hurrah! Right then. So this Range Rover Vogue 3.6 litre TD-V8 was registered in April 2007. So she's nearly 18 years old, and we're 2 weeks away from her next MOT inspection. Now, I don't anticipate any great problems because I look after my vehicles. I'm on top of the maintenance, on top of the preventative maintenance. But you never know when you're going to get a curveball. So we're going to spend a little bit of time just poking around and making sure that this old girl flies through the MOT. Now, we've set the bar pretty high. Last year she went through with flying colours. Passed first time, no advisories, clean bill of health. But this year I know there are a few things that could give us little bits of problems. There's some chips in the windscreen for one, which we'll have a closer look at. We've got a retractable seat belt which doesn't retract. That's a big no-no. And we'll also have a little poke around under the car and in the engine bay, making sure that everything's as it needs to be. And because the MOT is largely a visual inspection, we can do this inspection ourselves, or some of it. When it comes to emissions, we'll give it a little bit of a boost to make sure that the emissions test passes with flying colours, but we'll get onto that in a bit. So as we're sat here, we'll have a look at these windscreen chips, which to be honest look like they're in a pretty bad place. They're not big, but they're there. I would prefer if they were over there somewhere. Let's have a look. So we have a couple of little chips. But how do we know if our friendly MOT inspector is going to fail us or not? Well, the government MOT inspection guidelines tell us what we need to do, because this is what the MOT inspector will be doing, is sit in the driver's seat, as we are, and examine zone A, which is 290mm wide, centred on the steering wheel, and see if there are any defects, chips, cracks, etc., greater than 10mm in diameter in that zone that could affect our vision. But how do we know where that zone is? Well, if in doubt, template it out. This is what the inspector is going to be looking at. And oh bugger, that chip is smack bang there in the middle of zone A. Now, these are heated windscreens, which is basically a PVB sandwiched between two pieces of glass, and in the PVB it contains the electrical wires that heat the windscreen. And I've had a really good look, and there's no damage to the internal layer or the wires that I can see, and the damage is just the outer layer of glass. So that seems to make it a good candidate for us to see if we could do a nice, easy, simple and cheap fix. So we got one of those windscreen repair kit, which basically is a resin that you inject into the defect, wait for it to cure, which you need UVA for it to cure, and see if that solves our problem. And if it doesn't, we've always got the option of getting a new windscreen on the insurance, paying the excess. That's a bit of a faff, so we'll try this first. And now we wait. The resin needs to cure with UVA. The best source of UVA is that yellow thing up there. But living in the UK, we don't see that for about 80% of the year. We're fortunate today. So we'll let the sun beat down on that for the next hour before we get to the next bit of scraping it off and see if it's resolved the repair. It's looking quite good. Now, if you haven't got sun, you're going to have to get yourself a UVA light to cure it, or a black light as they're also known. If you're going to buy yourself one of those, make sure it's actually a black light that emits UVA and not just a LED torch which the seller has put a purple film over. Just read the reviews, you'll quickly find out which are the genuine ones and which aren't. So we'll go and have a nice tea break and come back in about an hour. So we've got some resin left and some UV curing strips. So it'd be silly not to touch up all the other tiny little nicks that we've got. Come on son, beat down, beat down. Oh yes, oh yes. Well, it's been an hour. So let's have a little look, shall we? Yeah, that resin's dry. Well, it's definitely diminished it, but it's not what you'd call, by any stretch of the imagination, an invisible repair. So we attempted the windscreen repair with our little £10 resin kit, and how would we rate it? Poor. It's definitely diminished the defects. Is that enough? I'm not really happy with it. I may attempt to put a little bit more resin in to see if we can improve it, but we'll run with it and see what the inspector says on the day. Now, these kits all claim to be miracle workers and they'll do bullseye chips, cracks, etc. I'd never even attempt to repair a crack. If I've got a crack in my windscreen, no matter where it is, it's going to get replaced. It's just dangerous driving around with cracks. But it was worth an attempt for that little chip, but not what you'd call highly successful. So we'll see. Anyway, what's next? Well, while we're sat here pretending to be the MOT inspector, what's our rear view mirrors look like? Well, they're not cracked. That's a thumbs up. Visibility, good. Suppose we better check the windscreen washer, because they like that, and the blades, make sure that they're actually wiping the windscreen. Beautiful. Which is no great surprise, the blades are only about 4 weeks old and they're good quality ones. Bosh. Turning our attention to our non-retracting retractable seat belt. I think that will benefit from a good clean and a bit of lubrication. Well, wouldn't we all? Sleeves up, serious stuff when you get your sleeves up. A towel, a bucket of hot water, and after a successful raid in the laundry room, one of those. Oh, don't eat. Jesus, people must be thick. Pop it in the hot water, give it a bit of a whiz round. Oh yeah, we need something just to pin that back. Okay, let's let that make a soup for 30 minutes or so. Can't imagine what kind of grime we're going to get out of that. Dog DNA, I suspect. And I've been accused of not doing any laundry. This qualifies as laundry in my book. Look at that. Oh yeah, that's already. Let's give that a bit of an agitate. See, I know all the laundry terminology. I'm almost an expert now. Let's give this a bit of a clean with particular attention. In that bit there is the nothing this heavy duty multi-purpose cleaner can't do. Little bit longer to achieve perfection. Looking good. Look how filthy that water is. Now, these might not be the sexiest jobs in the world, not comparable to stripping down a McLaren and rebuilding it nut and bolt at a time, but these little simple practical things are what most vehicle owners have to deal with. And if it helps save you a few quid or a trip back to the MOT station for a retest and hence saving you a bit of time, it's worth sharing these things with people. So let's get that one out now and give it a bit of a clean down, wipe over. And we won't let it retract in while it's damp. Yeah, that's coming out lovely. Put that back down there for a minute. And wipe off as much of the excess water as we can. Ooh. Ooh, it's looking nice and shiny. Right then, we're not going to let that retract in until it's dry. I'll plug that in over there. Make sure that that doesn't go back in. And we'll let that dry. And if it doesn't work, if nothing else, at least it's clean. Well, our seat belt's dried out nicely. And it retracts better. But not good enough. What we need to do is to lubricate it with a bit of our magic spray. This magic spray, in fact, Belso seatbelt spray. Let it retract fully once or twice. Look at that. Now we've checked our seatbelt and there's no tears or fraying or anything, so that's all good. But does it actually work as a seatbelt? Well, let's see, shall we? Driving along, being the non-nervous passenger that I am. Oh my God! Yep, that works. Why am I sat on my backside on the floor, you may be asking yourself? Well, we're going to be looking at the two rear reflectors, mandatory reflectors, which must be fitted. And we can see this one, there's a little bit missing. Now, up to 50% missing is a minor defect. Over 50% would be a major defect and a fail. So we've got a minor, which just means we need to monitor it and repair it before it becomes a problem. So let's monitor it. Yeah, that's monitored. So, as our objective is to get it through the MOT with a clean bill of health and no advisories. We're going to replace it. Unfortunately, I have some new ones. That'll be a pass. What's the other side look like? And would you Adam and Eve it? This one's cracked as well. It's not as bad as the other one. It might not even warrant a minor defect. But as we've got two, we'll replace it. Two new reflectors. Okay, let's have a poke around under the bonnet. Nothing major, just briefly. My God, this is a thing of beauty. So first of all, let's check our brake fluid in the brake fluid reservoir. Now, if your reservoir is dirty and you can't see how much brake fluid's in there, neither will the inspector, so clean it. Otherwise he might assume it's empty, because although he could take out the cap and have a look, he shouldn't. Now, as I recently flushed and changed all of our brake fluid, I know we're good to go. But brake fluid is something you should be checking frequently anyway. You're not waiting to see if an MOT inspector says you've got a problem. Next we'll move over to the battery, and we need to make sure it's not leaking, it's connected properly and it's secure. Now, these things in the Range weigh an absolute ton, and they've got some lovely firm strong brackets holding it in place, but that's good to go. Top up your washer fluid. You don't want that running out when they're testing your windscreen washers. Simple, top it up. While here, we'll make sure that our coolant is at the correct level, which it is, and then we're going to check another favourite, bonnet catch. So we'll check that. Solid as a rock. Let's check the electronic parking brake. We're conveniently on the driveway slope, currently in park. Let's pop it into neutral. It's a decent slope. Engage the parking brake. It holds us. Beautiful. We've checked all the lights, we've got no bulbs out, everything's good. But one of the favourite things for us to look at is the condition of your headlight lenses. So if they're old and knackered and yellow, you probably need to restore them. In my experience, the cheap restoration kits are a complete waste of time and money. And you need to do them properly, which is wet sanding and 2K clear coat. I did these about 4 years ago and they're looking sweet. And if you want to know how I did that, there's a rather long video that I did it on a Freelander, and I'll put a link up there somewhere. Feel free to have a look at that. But ours are good. I may be getting too old to be lying on the cars, so I've checked the best I can without putting it on a ramp or standing in a pit. The suspension components, brake lines, and the inner wall of the tyre to make sure there's no bulges or splits, and it's all good. So we'll just work our way around the car and do the rest of it. There is some corrosion on the rear subframe, which I would expect the inspector to at least note. It's not weakened, but I'm going to need to resolve that, but that won't be before the inspection. I'll wait till it warms up a bit, get it up and lana guard it. Other than that, looking pretty good under there. Well, as far as I'm able to tell. We'll defer to the inspector for a thorough inspection of all the components After all, that's what I'm paying them for. Onto the tyres. Check the outer wall. There's no splits, no tears, no bulges. So we're going to now check the tread thickness. The legal limit minimum is 1.6 mil. So how are we going to check that easily? Well, with the strategic use of a 20p piece, which has got a little lip on it, and that lip coincidentally is 3 millimeters. And if we pop that into the tread, we can see that our tread depth is more than 3 millimeters, which is good. Now we have to do that across 3/4 of the width of the tyre, and we're at about 4 millimeters. And you also obviously need to check the circumference of the tyre. Now I would change our tyres at 3 mil tread depth. Why'd you do that if the legal minimum is 1.6 millimeters? Well, the difference in stopping distance between 1.6 millimeter tread and 3 millimeter tread increases by about 40%. Now, when I'm in command of 3 tons of car hurtling around, well, it's 3 tons when I'm in it, the dog's in it, and all my crap's in it, I want to be fairly sure that I can stop. And I think you would like to be fairly sure I can stop as well. So when we get down to 3 mil, we'll change the tyres. So we'll just check the other ones now. But while I'm here, we'll check the condition of the discs, pads, and as I've recently changed the discs, pads and caliper, as well as the brake pipe, and replaced all the brake fluid and bled it, this is good. I've also changed the brake pads on the front as well. So I've got a good braking system, good tyres, we can stop when we need to. Now, if you're driving around with bald tyres, less than the legal limit of 1.6 millimeters, the fine is £2,500 and 3 points per tyre. So if you've got 4 bald tyres, not only are you an idiot for driving around with bald tyres, you're likely to find that you get a £10,000 fine, 12 points, which is a ban. Check your tyres. We're on the last leg, emissions. To give our emissions test a bit of a boost, we're going to be popping some of this in the fuel tank. And if you've seen any of my videos before, you know that I highly rate Cataclean. It's the complete fuel and exhaust system cleaner. We have about 15 litres of fuel in the tank, which is what the directions say we should have. Let's not waste any. And we're going to let the car idle for a few minutes to get the Cataclean juices working their way through the system. And after that, we're going to go for about a 40 to 50 mile drive and let it do its thing. By then we should be pretty much on empty, and we'll go and fill up with a bit of premium diesel. It's a beautiful day for a drive. Showing my drives to the MOT inspection station, but needs must. Now, in my experience, there are a couple of types of vehicle owner. There are those that these cars are a necessary evil to get them from point A to B. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's okay. They've no desire to know what goes on under the bonnet. They've certainly got no inclination to do any work themselves. And they'll jump in them every day and drive them until they don't drive anymore. And then they'll get them fixed or scrap them. And those particular category of vehicle owner will look to their MOT with trepidation each year. And if it fails, they can decide whether to get things fixed to get it through the MOT or not. Now, the other category of owner is someone like me, who throughout the year will spend a little bit of time making sure that the maintenance is done, making sure any preventative maintenance done, making sure the vehicle is roadworthy all the time, fixing things as they go wrong. Because at the end of the day, they are machines and things are going to wear out and go wrong. And the reason I do that is because I know that I can keep these cars going forever. Well, not forever, but a long time. Now, as I've said, this one's 18 years old. And I've got another one that's 18 years old, which I've also owned from new. And I fully expect these to be on the road in 18 years' time. I see no reason why they shouldn't be. In fact, I'll probably leave them to me kids in their inheritance. I mean, I know that they probably want watch collection, properties and cash. But I'm leaving that to the dog's home. They can have the internal combustion engines. Won't they be pleased? It's character building. Now, if you need any evidence that the first category of vehicle owner has no interest in what's going on with their car, let's consider a hypothetical but frequent issue with MOTs. They'll take their car for the MOT and it'll pass. And they'll go, that's it, I haven't got to worry about it for another year. Well, let's just assume that your tyre tread is 3mm on MOT day. And you use your car to do your daily drive to work. How long do you think those tyres are going to be good? They're not going to last till the next MOT. They'll be below the legal minimum in a couple of months, maybe a bit longer depending on how miles you do. And believe me, well, next time you're at a supermarket walking across the car park, glance down and have a look at people's tyres. I think you'll be shocked at how many of them are bald. Those will be the category that their MOT passed with a couple of mil and carried on driving them. Of course, they'll fail at the next MOT, where they'll go, oh, I need new tyres. Oh. But they shouldn't have been driving them around with bald tyres in the meantime. They're a bit busy. What am I going to do for 90 minutes? Full English. So that's the MOT inspection done and dusted. And what was the result, I hear you ask? Well, we passed, of course. Not quite as good as last year's clean bill of health. We did end up with one minor defect, which was the chip in the windscreen. Can't say I'm surprised. So a minor defect with the comment, something along the lines of, chip in windscreen does not adversely affect driver's view, which I agree with. But that's done. Now then, let's get this one back and on to the next job, which is on the other Range Rover. And that will be replacing the front offside air strut, which has got a tiny little pinhole in it. So until the next time, take care.